Critical race theory. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy day to join me. I really appreciate it. And so, yes, we're talking about critical race theory. And I want to talk about a few things as it concerns critical race theory. The first of which is what exactly is critical race theory, right? And so let's start there. Critical race theory is curriculum that is specifically designed for graduate level students upon admittance into graduate school in the social science area. Now, it is a course geared and specifically tailored for graduate school students that uncovers and examines the United States history as it concerns institutional and systemic racism. Now, critical race theory. The argument recently, if you haven't seen on any sort of media outlets, whether that be Facebook, your local news, or the newspaper, there is currently an attack by parents at traditionally public schools as it regards freedom of expression in literature. And the argument is that children suffer the consequences of being told an inconvenient truth, specifically white children, and that because of the level of uncomfortableness, it is something that should be not talked about with these children. Now, the thing is, the problem is two pronged there. It is never a child's fault, right? I think that any adult with half a brain can, tell you that. It is never the child's fault. The child is oftentimes a victim of adults jumping to conclusions, being presumptuous, and continuing to exacerbate and perpetuate a democratic republic embedded in falsehood via systemic and institutional racism. Now, uncomfortable things are hard to talk about. I happen, if you've ever watched the channel before, like talking about uncomfortable things. I think talking about uncomfortable things is probably the best way that we can grow. And when examining such topics as critical race theory, and especially because, oftentimes on either side of the argument, children are brought up, and I specifically discussed children in that regard because they are not involved, and they are especially not to be held accountable for our ancestors or our but it is important to shed light on mistakes, and so that we can learn from them. In no way is it teaching critical race theory an attack on white people and thereby white children. It's simply not. However, it is an inconvenient truth when you're not white to understand that the world was not built for you as it would be in the last few centuries or so. And that's a harsh truth to accept, but nonetheless, it's the truth, and there's no hate here. We can't hate future populaces for the actions of their ancestors. However, I would make the argument that at some point our inaction does make us just as guilty as actually being a part of the physical aspect of that. And again, oftentimes I think adults feel so guilty about the things that they've failed to address and the items that we've not discussed collectively as peers, and as a result take that sort of animosity out on policy and procedures that we think protect our children in terms of the harsh truth of the world. But we can only begin to heal and learn to forgive once we've accepted our faults and are accountable for our actions. And so critical race theory is something I definitely encourage you guys to look up. And it's pretty deep, but it's also something, again, that probably should be talked about, including that of which with your children. And if not at school, if that's something that's not approved of within the home, then it's up to parents to have these conversations with their children. And the cool thing about school, though, is if you're not willing to have these conversations, then they can be had elsewhere. And so that's where I leave you.